Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Key Stage 4 Year 9 Curriculum Choices event for March 2023. Thank you for joining us this evening. Just to say as we go through, if there are any bits that you need to note down, this presentation is being recorded and I will send it out following this evening, so you can always play it back and look through any information at your leisure. I am really hoping this works as I am hoping because it's been a little while since I've done one of these, so fingers crossed this will go smoothly and you'll have all the information you need. So just to introduce myself, my name is Miss Gould and I'm Deputy Head here at St Peter's. I oversee the options process and putting that into the timetable for Year 9, moving through into Year 10. So it's something that I've done for quite a number of years at this school and also at my previous school. This evening's presentation will cover a few different areas, so the importance of curriculum choices, and I know your son or daughter will be really keen to make sure that they're making the right choices for them. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the EBacc or English Baccalaureate, as it's an area that I often will get questions about from parents. What is it? Is it important? It comes up every so often, so it's just to raise your awareness of that. I will talk through the actual physical process of how to make option choices. We use Sims Options, which is in your parent app, and I'll show you how that works as well. There'll be information about how to find out more about various courses, and you should have received the Year 9 options booklet already, which is a brilliant source of information, but there are plenty of other places and avenues to find information, and I'll talk about that, and also where to get further advice about next steps in general, careers, that sort of thing. So this is a big step for your son or daughter. It's the point at which they are starting to think about their curriculum and have some choice in what it is that they study. Now, I will always say to a Year 9, it's really important that they make the right choices for them. Not thinking about their friends, not thinking about what's popular choices and will I be able to sit next to, you know, my best friend if I choose this one, but thinking about what is right for them, their talents, their gifts, and what will take them through into their next steps for their future. So it's thinking about choices that will open doors for them. So particularly if they're not sure what it is they actually want to study or want to do as a career in the future, keeping options open and thinking about, if I don't do a particular subject, does that block a choice that I might want to make in the future? So it's a big decision to make, but that's why we give lots and lots of support, and parents are always fantastic at supporting their children with making this choice as well. The biggest thing that I will say to anybody making choices is don't rush it. Think really carefully, get all the information that you need, then make that decision. Quite a lot of the time, I will have a young person come and see me because they realise I've made a poor choice. I didn't think this subject was going to be like that. Or when I spoke to an older cousin or an older brother and sister, they said it was different when they studied it, and I thought that. It's really important that they get the facts. What are the courses like? What is the breakdown of coursework and exam, if it has coursework at all? What are the topics that are studied? How are you assessed? What skills do you need for that subject? It's sometimes possible in September I can make a change to a different course, but sometimes it isn't. And if that decision, that realisation comes too late in the autumn term, then there's very little I'm able to do about it because the classes are set and it's too late to catch up on any curriculum that's already been covered. And often there just isn't room in the groups that people want to move into. So it is important to make those choices carefully. And if at this point decisions change, before the timetable starts in September, we may have some flexibility, but it's trying to get that information, that choice set now. So when I talk to Year 9 and talk to parents, it's thinking about, well, what should I take into account when making my subjects now, making my subject choices? So what potential career plans do they have? Some young people are really, really clear about where they want to go when they're older in terms of the career path they want to follow, or the fact that they want to go to university or to study an apprenticeship. I know myself, I didn't really have any idea. So actually that in itself helped me make my decision, because I knew I needed to keep the range of subjects I studied broad. So I had lots of options when I finally made decisions about what it is that I wanted to do. But if there are potential career plans already in mind, if there are particular university courses already in mind, or college courses, have a look at what the entry requirements or what the required skills and qualifications for that would be. What subject combinations will help give that broad and balanced range of qualifications? I'll talk a little bit about breadth of curriculum and why that is so important later in this presentation, but that is a really important thing in terms of, again, keeping doors open. If actually your preferences change as you get older, that you've given yourself another route through. This one for me is really important as a young person. What are your strengths? What are you likely to do well in? What are you likely to really enjoy? If you're going to enjoy it, you're more likely to do well in it. And how do you know those are your strengths? Is that an assumption that you've made? Likewise, do you think, oh, I'm not very good at that subject? Actually, you might be, and you're being too hard on yourself. So this is where you talk to your teacher at Year 9 Parents' Evening next week. Am I good at this subject? What are my strengths? Are those strengths enough to help me excel at this subject at GCSE? Really importantly, what do the Key Stage 4 courses look like? What will I actually study? For example, GCSE PE is not all practical, absolutely not. It's a good percentage of that is theory and therefore is assessed through exam, but aspects of it are indeed practical, so you have to be confident in doing both. Likewise for drama, there is an exam that's also practical. Are you confident to get up and perform in front of a group of people? So it's thinking about all of those aspects when making those decisions. So as I said, I would talk a bit about the breadth of curriculum and keeping that balanced for students. So all of our students will study our core subjects of English, Maths, Science and RE. RE is compulsory in every school, but we do the GCSE course. As a Catholic school, it's really important and it's central to our curriculum here. So all of our students will study those four. That's not part of the options process. That's the core curriculum for everybody. In addition to those 4 subjects, then obviously we do have games. That's not a qualification in itself, but that's to keep our young people fit and healthy and active because that benefits them in so many ways. There are various areas of experience, as we call them, various subject groups that students can then elect to choose their subjects from. So humanities, which would include geography and history, modern foreign languages, including French and Spanish. Computer science is another option that we have here. Then we have the creative and expressive arts, so that includes art, photography, drama, music. Physical education, PE, we have a course as well, so that is separate to games. That is a qualification for GCSE. Design and technology, which is a suite of qualifications, but students specialise in a particular area. So that includes resistant materials, graphics, and textiles. Business studies is a further option that we have here, and we offer 2 different types of courses in that subject, and there's detail about that in your curriculum booklet. Child development, which is a Cambridge National course, so a GCSE equivalent, and has a large proportion of coursework, but is a popular option for many of our students. And citizenship is a GCSE as well. Now, not listed on there is food preparation and nutrition. It's part of the technology suite of subjects, but it is a separate GCSE from that group. So where you cannot study graphics and textiles together because they are part of that one GCSE, but you can do, say, graphics and food if you wanted to do both of those subjects. So although it's within the technology area, if you like, it is a separate GCSE from the technology subjects, which are graphics, textiles and resistant materials. So the EBacc, I said I would talk a little bit about that because every so often it pops up in newspaper headlines. Some schools have a really strong emphasis on it, other schools don't really mention much about it. So, and there is a section in your curriculum booklet that went home about this as well, just to explain more. But the EBaccalaureate is not a qualification in its own right. It's actually a performance measure for schools. So schools are assessed on the percentage of students that they have who enter the EBaccalaureate and achieve a strong pass or a grade 5 in the following elements. So that's English, maths and 2 sciences, which all of our students would study anyway, and then a humanity, geography or history, and a modern foreign language. Now the question is, do I need that particular suite of subjects? So as I said, it comes up in the news quite often. It's a target that schools are sometimes asked to aim for. We don't really place an emphasis on it because it's a target for schools. That's not part of our ethos here at St. Peter's. We want students to pick the right courses that are for them. However, I would say that it does give a broad and balanced curriculum. So particularly if you're not sure what it is that you want to do in the future, having a humanity and having a modern foreign language and then another option subject is a really good way to ensure you have good breadth across your curriculum, because you have English, maths, science, humanity, language, and another subject which might be an art, for example. As I say, we don't funnel students into doing the EBacc, but we just give information about it and ask students and parents to support with their decision in choosing the right curriculum. We don't believe in narrowing that because sometimes that impacts on other subjects when actually those subjects would be really beneficial for the students taking them. So do you need the EBacc? It depends on what you want to do. And if you don't know, I would say it's a really good starting point for that broad curriculum, especially if you've got an aptitude or a passion for languages and humanities, because it will open doors and it will keep that broad range of opportunities available at post-16 and going forward into university. In years gone by, Russell Group universities, so for example, Southampton University, did used to place an emphasis on whether a student did achieve the EBacc within their GCSEs, as well as then the A-level courses they studied. That emphasis has kind of dwindled away. That's not really part of something that universities focus on anymore as specifically as the EBacc. However, they do look for breadth of curriculum, and what universities are noticing is that more and more students have quite a narrow range in their curriculum because maybe they're focusing just on one area of GCSEs. Now, something to share with you that is particularly interesting is the impact of languages actually on students' attainment and the rest of their curriculum. So a study that Cambridge University supported actually showed that students who study another language, if they're multilingual, even if they're not fluent in that other language, tend to perform better across all of their subjects. So maths, English, science, etc., as a result of studying a language. So it is beneficial, and it also opens doors. And I know a number of people who I went to school with who weren't sure if they would use their language, but are now working across Europe and actually have used those language skills as they've gone forward in a whole range of different career paths. Okay, on to the practical bit of how you actually make your option choices. So on the Sims Parent app, you should hopefully see a new tab that says options. If you can't see that, I will explain how you get help with that towards the end of this presentation. Now, this isn't live just yet. It doesn't go live until next Friday. I'll explain why in a moment. But when it does, this is what your son or daughter's options page will look like. So you would have a page that looks like this, obviously with a face and actual details on there, but I've blanked that out for GDPR. And then a whole range of all of the subjects that we have on offer. To select them is really simple. You just click on the subject and it goes blue, and you can see art is circled there. So that subject has been collected. Sorry, that subject has been selected. And you just go through and you make the choices that are required. So ahead of the date, ahead of the Friday the 10th of March, please check you can log into Sims Parent app. If you can't, Mrs. Hull, who's one of our admin team, can support with getting your password reset and getting you logged in. Also make sure you can see that options tab. It's not live as yet, but when it goes live, then you'll be able to get those choices in. If you're one of a number of parents who have not accessed Sims Parent app, and because you've not had a link to do that, you should have received an invitation in the last few days so that you're able to get going with that and check that you can log in. So once the choices are made, you'll see on the right hand side there's a box there that has a number next to them. So what this tells me, Mrs. Gould, as the person who's organising the option choices, is that this student has picked art as their favourite subject. That is their first preference that they want to do. And their second preference is citizenship. And then underneath, I would see 2 more options. When all 4 have been selected, then it needs to be saved, and then that comes through to me. Now, we ask that students select 4 choices, but actually they will only study 3 of these, and that's because of the amount of time that they have in the timetable to be able to do them. So although we ask for 4, it's because we need a 4th choice in the event that one of their options isn't available to them. I start with a premise of first choices, allocating those out to students, and I aim to try and get everybody into their first choice. Then I work through the second choices and so on. My ambition is always to get 100% of students with their top 3 choices, but it isn't always possible. So it's really important that 4th choice is one they might want to study, because they may end up actually studying that in September. So as I said, put them in order. Number 1 is that first choice. Now on this point, this is really, really important. Over the last couple of years, although I say it's really important you get the preference order right, I will inevitably get 1 or 2 students who don't get their 3rd choice, for example, and then tell me that that was their first. Now I will go with the information that I have, and if they're not put in the right order, I have no way of knowing that until confirmation of choices goes out. At that point, if I can change it, I do, but it's quite possible I might not be able to. So number 1, top choice, number 2, second choice, and so on and so on. There is a space for comments at the bottom. That is entirely optional, so I don't ask students to make comments unless they wish to. Likewise, parents, you can put a comment in if you feel that it's something that I should know, but it's entirely optional, so don't feel that you have to fill that in. And then, sorry, there's an approval box there. If you just tick that, then when that's done, and there isn't a save button, but that tells me that you have had that conversation and those choices are in. Now, I don't know any Year 9 student, any teenager who doesn't change their mind. I don't know any adult who doesn't either, for that matter. So if you submit those choices and then 2 days later there is panic in the household and actually they want to change their mind or change the order of preferences, that's easy to do. Just go back in, click on the subject again, and it will be unselected, and then you can make your new choice or make the new order of choices. Changes can be made as many times as you like until the deadline of Wednesday, the 22nd of March. Now that's the point at which I start working on them, looking at next year's option blocks and next year's timetable. So if there is a change after the 22nd of March, please do email into school. I will do my best to accommodate it, but there's no guarantee after that point. If you cannot get into Send Parent App, that's the email address that you need to use. Mrs. Hull will then get back to you and she will reset your account. If you have issues with accessing this online entirely, then please do give a call into Student Hub and we will get a paper form to you so that you can write on your choices. And this is what that form looks like, so fairly straightforward. And you would just write 1 next to the first choice, 2 next to the second choice, and so on. So next steps. Please do spend time reading through that information booklet that we sent out last week and discuss possible choices. Really look through things like the assessment, the topics that are covered. Make sure that you watch the option subject videos for more information. So these are videos for the option subjects. A link will be shared in a moment. Our subject leaders have recorded that and it goes through the most commonly asked questions specific to that subject. So if you watch through those and you're thinking, well, what careers might it lead to, or what's the assessment like, or do I have to be fantastic at this in order to excel? Those videos will probably cover a good 90% of the questions that you have. If, however, they don't, and you need to speak to a specific subject teacher, please book that via School Cloud. So at the moment, the appointments available are for your child's Year 9 teachers. Tomorrow, so Friday the 3rd of March, the appointments for subject-specific teachers, for example, Mrs. Rickman, who leads child development, they will become available as well. But I would really ask that you watch the video for those subjects first, because it may be that you're making an appointment to hear an answer that could have been addressed in the video, and then a parent who's got a different question that isn't covered isn't able to get that slot. So do watch the videos first, but then if you need the appointments, they are there. I am just going to keep sort of reiterating about putting the subject choices in order of preference. That is really important because it helps me do the job of getting those options into the first choices in for as many students as possible. And that deadline is Wednesday, the 22nd of March. Now, this is information that I shared with Year 9 in an assembly last week. So I've mentioned about putting them in order. I won't say that again. And I've mentioned about the deadline. So a lot of the time people think, well, if I get mine in on Friday the 3rd of March, I get my choices because I'm in first. That's not how I operate the option choices. I would much rather everybody took their time, really made an informed decision, and then got their choices in. I don't start working on them until the deadline of Wednesday, the 22nd of March, and it doesn't tell me who's in first. So it's not first come served. So please don't rush to get them in. It is about getting that information first. It's choosing the subjects that they want to do. In years gone by, I've had people come to see me again in September and say, Miss, I chose it because my best friend's doing it. And actually, I really don't like it. Again, it may be too late for me to do anything about that in September. If I can, I will, but it's not always possible because I'm limited in terms of spaces in groups. So it's thinking about what's right for them, not what their mates are doing, because actually it's their future that they're working towards. Not basing choices on current teachers. If they happen to love their teacher or maybe not like them so much, it may not well be the person that's teaching them next year. And there's no way they can know that until the timetable's set, and that's not done until much nearer the end of this academic year. So it's choosing the subject because they want to study it, not just based on the person that will be teaching them. I think I've said enough about that one, but it's really an important thing, particularly at this age, because friends have such an important part in their life. And getting advice, asking teachers, asking yourselves, actually, because you've got a wealth of experience yourselves. Mr. Downs, a careers advisor. I'm always available every break and every lunchtime in the canteen, so they can always come and have a chat with me just to get some thoughts, ideas, advice. But speaking to the staff around school who teach the subject, what do you think? You know, asking any questions that they might have. Now, over the years, I've collected a range of questions from parents. So these are some of the frequently asked questions that I would get during the options process. So the logging into Sims Parent app, you've got the link there if you have any technical difficulties with that. So please contact the info@ email address. The options form goes live on the 10th of March, so that's a week tomorrow, Friday the 10th of March. The reason it does not go live until then is so that you've had time to read through the booklet, time to watch the videos, and also the parents' evening next week, so that you've had a chance to have all of that information before choices start to go in. If your child's not sure what they want to do in the future, and there'll be many, many students who don't really know yet what it is they want to do, again, think about breadth of curriculum. So think about a humanity, think about modern foreign language, think about something else that they think they would really enjoy. Most importantly, though, don't make an assumption about subjects, find out from their teacher what actually that subject is like. Now, this is a particular question. How do you pick option choices so they don't cause a clash and you're guaranteed to have all three? The option blocks, we don't set them in advance here at St. Peter's. So what I do is I take all of the choices in and I create the option blocks based upon the choices that come in. I find that's a way to try and get as many students being able to access the choices that they have put in as possible. It's a lot more work, it's a lot more time consuming, but it's worth it if I can get as many students their top choices as possible. So that isn't feasible. Occasionally there are clashes, not every year, but occasionally there are. If that is the case, I do my utmost to try and break those blocks apart so that I don't have clashes. But if it's not possible, then I contact parents involved and have a chat with those students as well, just to explain the reasons why and have a look at what alternatives there might be. Now, although we have our preferences, my target I aim for every year is 100% of students get choices 1, 2 and 3, and that fourth choice isn't needed. And some years I manage it, but more often than not, there are some students who don't get one of the choices that they've opted for. And the reasons for that there are many. It might be that in a particular year, that subject is massively popular. And so I've just got more people choosing it than I've actually got spaces for. It could be because of a clash in the option blocks is another example. Now, it's definitely the minority of students that are sort of in this boat, if you like. And what I will then do is look at that fourth choice to try and allocate that to them. As I say, I always start with choice 1. So if I can give everybody their first choice, then I work through and try and give everybody their second choice and work through that way. So my aim is, if I can't give one of the choices, it's one of the lower preference ones rather than the one that is their absolute favourite. It doesn't always work that way, but more often than not it does. So that's how I try and work it through. So how do I decide who does get allocated to groups if it's really popular? First choices will go in first. And it will be that's why the preferences is really important to consider. And then I will do everything I can to try and get as many students into that subject. But ultimately, when it's full, it is full. And I think I've mentioned already, but you've hit the deadline, that's passed. I'm working on the option groups, but your child comes to you and says, I've changed my mind, I really don't want to do that subject anymore. Just email into school, pass that on to me. And if I'm still working on them, I may well be able to factor it in. But if I can't, I'll let you know, and then we'll go from there. So any subject specific information, as I've said, you've got the options booklet first. The link for the YouTube playlist for the videos, that I mentioned, is there below. So that's a YouTube channel, and it's called Curriculum Choices Evening, Year 9 Curriculum Choices Evening 2023. And it's got a list of all the videos on there so that you can just watch them through, re-watch them, and obviously pick out the ones that are particularly of interest to your son or daughter. If there's any queries then that aren't answered in the booklet or in the videos, you can email the relevant people below. So subject specific queries, if you use the info@ email address, they'll get passed on to the relevant subject leader, as long as it's clear which subject you're talking about. The names of the subject leaders are in that curriculum booklet. So if you're unsure who it is who leads computing or PE, for example, they're listed in there. Mr. Down's email address is there, and I know many of you have been in touch with him already, which is fantastic. It's really lovely to see a proactive year group, but he is there if you need advice in terms of general careers advice. Mrs. Richardson, our Senko, is also listed there, so if you've got any queries with regards to your child and supporting their SEND needs throughout this process and looking forward into GCSE, please do contact her, and my address is there as well if you've got any queries relating to the options process in general. And that is it. I really hope this has been helpful and it's given you the information that you need. As I say, a recording of this will be sent out shortly, but thank you again for joining this evening, and I really do hope that your son or daughter feels really excited about making their choices for next year, and I look forward to seeing the subjects that they choose. Thank you.